that's where his hamstrings are starting to give me feedback. Doesn't mean we're at his limit, but that's probably where it starts. So if I keep going, what I want to look for is like, if I've run out of space here, either the knee's gonna bend or the hip's gonna rotate. You see the knee start to bend? So if I push beyond that, the knee starts to bend. We're no longer in the hip, we're now in, so the hip is no longer flexing, we're now in knee flexion. So the knee is taking the movement now, all right? So I'm gonna say that this is as far as we can get, is right about there. See that bend? I wanna try to get more range before that bend. So we're at maybe 50 degrees, that's what I would say. Probably no pain, doesn't seem there's any discomfort, but I'm sure Evan would like more options here, right? That would be nice. So we're gonna try to give him that. Face down if you would, please. Now I like feet off the table because it gives me more play here. I am, pardon me for a second, I'm gonna grab a little shea butter, just in case I need it, and I might. This is the thing that happens a lot, like I just assessed his left hip. If I stay right here, I'm now on his right hip, so I gotta be mindful to mosey on over here. Okay, so we're gonna start with calf. Again, I'm just gonna demo application of technique, throw some tools at you, and then you're just gonna open practice, okay? Our goal in this school is not to build robots, man. One of the things we pride ourselves in clinic is like, everybody's massage is different. You're gonna find your zone. Now, we had a couple people this morning that are like, not a fan of bodywork, love Brandon stuff. I'm like, sweet, that might be your zone. Stay open. What you learn here will inform your Monday session and vice versa. We had some people that like sold on the bodywork. You're all gonna find a different place with it, right? I've had students leave here that like, bodywork was too difficult, I'm going to the spa. I see them 2 years later, they got a full bodywork practice. Like, you just don't know, right? But wherever you end up, trust me when I say it will all be valuable, okay? But you're gonna find what you like the best, okay? So I'm gonna start with pin and stretch. So the concept of pin and stretch is I want to pin tissue, that's step one, and then I want to stretch it. Generally, I'm gonna use a joint to do that. So these muscles here are all plantar flexors. So if I want to stretch them, I need to use dorsiflexion, okay? But before I do that, I'm gonna take the tissue. I generally like to start with the palm. I'm gonna feel around, and immediately you'll feel, you should all come feel this. Gastrocnemius is a dual-bellied muscle, okay? I want all of you to walk up and put your palm back here, and I want you to tell me, is the lateral or the medial head tighter? Come up there, Sean. So just take a palm and go like this and like that, and tell me which one feels tighter. It's super obvious with Evan. Feel it?
I feel like now.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I say feeling tension, this is what I mean. His lateral, I want you all to come and feel it. It's lateral. We don't need to guess it. There's no question. The lateral side has a wall when you press in. The medial side does not. It's just like supple. Yep. This is very common, by the way. Evan's a good example because he's naturally bow-legged, but it's a big difference.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's, you will see me target that lateral side a lot.
He'll be all right. Right? Just
Usually
warn
it's-
him
yeah.
in my head.
You're going to be fine, Evan.
Very cool.
Yeah. And then press medial. Big difference, right? Yeah. So we want to get this side to feel like this side. You're pushing on the same muscle. Exact same muscle. It's a big difference. Yeah? Nice, yeah. Thanks for being all screwed up, Evan. We appreciate it.
That's why
Feel
I
that,
had to
Frank?
be the third
Yeah.
safety.
Good. What's that?
That's why I had to be the third safety yet.
That's right. This for this. Oh, yeah. Nice. Yeah, great. Yep. Excellent. Yeah, so good opportunity just to feel like when I speak about feeling tension, that's what I mean. That tissue does not feel healthy. So I want to go in there and mobilize those layers. So if I go in, literally that's superficial fascia. That layer actually feels pretty good. If I go to that deep fascia, there's already restriction there. Now I might gather up a little bit more because I know Evan can handle it. He's pretty accustomed to work. I am going to pin that tissue up. So what you will see is not a glide. I am not disconnecting from the skin. I am pinning the fascia up. You might see his foot start to plantar flex a little bit right there. Once I have it, I'm gonna lean in and bring in some dorsiflexion. This is a pin and stretch. Now I am speaking to his ankle, But as a body worker, that limitation in straight leg raise is the whole posterior chain. I'm not just worried about the knee. I'm going to think about all of it. So I'm going to start with this pin and stretch. And as I do this, my hand will look like it's starting to glide up, but I'm not leaving the skin. Every time I disconnect, I can go a little bit deeper into my pin. Okay. Move to the next spot. Pin it down, pin it up. I can pin it in or out a little bit. I feel like I want to go out a little bit with it, and then I stretch. Could I have Evan do the movement? Sure. If I wanted to stack my hands and really get over the work, I could say, Evan, I'd like you to now hinge your foot up. So now he does it for me, okay? So you can do passive or active. Thirdly, I could also take a free hand and create the stretch with my own two hands. Sometimes I'll do that. You've got options. Sometimes movement's tough for people in certain areas. So I will use a second hand to stretch. Okay? Pressure-wise, like 1 to 5, I'd like to have like a 3 to 3.5 with fascial work. I really don't want to be at edge with this. That would be like the ideal zone. I feel like for Evan, we need to go a little deeper though. How are we doing? Good to go a little deeper with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to lean in with a forearm. So this is another tool. I'm going to find that depth. I'm going to pin it up. I've got more layers. I'm not in a position to really dorsiflex for Evan, so I'm going to have him do that for me. So really hinge, reach that heel towards me, nice and long. Kind of reach from your rib cage. And let that go. Good. And then reach again, nice and long. Yeah. Good, and let it go. So I'm only able to do this because I don't have them all oiled up, right? I'm able to pin that tissue, let him do the work. Excellent, good. Pause there for a second, yep, good. And I'm gonna add a little bit extra. Good. Now, just to give you some perspective, we aren't just interested in muscle bellies, right? We are very much so because there's a lot of fascia layer, but you see the septum in the middle? Sometimes that septum gets locked up. So you can feel in between and just feel like, does that septum feel tight? And it, right here it does. Like I can't move that lateral gastroc off of that soleus. So, and Evan will feel that spot right there. He'll be like, well, a little tender, right? Because I know there's inflammation there. The tissue's stuck. He's the mover. There's going to be irritation there. So I can get real specific and mobilize that tissue. And what you ultimately learn to understand is all the tension we find in this posterior chain may come into your office as low back pain. Doesn't matter. The work's the same. Could come in as knee pain. Could come in as plantar fasciitis. What I do doesn't change because I'm just following the assessments. Okay? All right, for a glide, I can take this tissue and then just mobilize it. So the speed is really just based off of Evan. I'm going to lean into it and just let his tissue move me. And again, I am hyper-focusing these lateral tissues because they are way tighter, okay? So I can do thumbs, fingertips. I would probably use maybe that much lube. I mean, that's it. Just enough, I know it's not much, just enough to get some medium between my fingers. And then I'm gonna go into that tissue. Now glides, I don't mind a little bit more intensity. I don't want it to be a 5 out of 5, but like a 4 or 4.5 is good. I'd say right now, you know, maybe a 3.5. Where are we at?
Like a 4.
Okay, so 4 is good with me, man. I mean, we're just gonna hang with that. And this is the speed.
So when you're saying gliding, it's actually his body allowing you to move deeper. You're not actually moving.
Yeah, so I am moving though. No, I'm moving towards his knee. If you give me about 90 seconds, I'll make it there.
Okay.
Yeah, I am moving. I am
pushing
lifting the
up.
tissue.
Okay.
It's just very slow because I'm not trying to go to war with fascia. But what I do know is if I just lean into that work, all the layers behind me will start giving space. So I'll just start getting mobility very, very slowly. But I'm not like
Trying to go.
yeah, I'm not doing a like in again in Swedish. It's really about this, pushing fluid through tubes. I'm trying to grip fascia and ask it to mobilize on something else. So it's a different sensation. I don't know if you're able to describe how it feels different to you, Evan.
It feels like he's taking everything underneath with him more so than being on top of it, if that makes sense.
Like gathering tissue.
Yeah.
And then just waiting on it. And I try to stay really patient with it. But that is how it, because again, you do have glides on Monday. They're just much more fluid. Yeah. And
So it's really slowing it down to take the time to allow his body to tell you when I'm ready for you to move.
Definitely. And his nervous system's in control.
Yeah.
So a lot of that speed is just based on like,
What he's receptive
that's
to.
it. That's it. And so on an older, denser, unhealthy body, it might be so slow, I just do compressions. You can't do glides on everybody. Some people are just, they're not ready for that. So I just, for the whole session, I'm doing a whole bunch of pin and stretch, a whole bunch of like broad compressions and just being patient with that. And we can build towards glides, but so not all these techniques are for everybody. But the idea is always the same. I'm always trying to accomplish the same thing, which is if I restore mobilization, I restore hydration. If I restore hydration, I restore health in the tissue. And I'll feel that, and I'll see it in their range of motion. And I'll get the feedback from how they feel. It's all gonna line up. It's all gonna line up. What's that?
It makes more sense why they tell you to drink a cup of water like after.
Yeah, it's hugely important. I've heard of body workers that like will not work on you until you're hydrated.
And that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a thing. And there's tests you can do. If y'all are wondering how you could tell, there's like, you can, I think it's around the wrist, you pinch the skin, and if it stays up, that's dehydrated tissue.
Yeah.
So
I've
I could
heard
just,
also the fingers too, but I guess
is it the fingers too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not 100% clear on it, but there is a test I know that can like gauge how hydrated you are. So, okay. So better, tissue feels better. We could probably be here for a solid, like if you have plantar fasciitis, I would stay in this lateral calf, kid you not, for probably 20 to 30 minutes. Just right here. That's all I would do. Because the tension has so many layers to it. I have so much work I need to do here. It's letting go pretty well. It might be less than that. I mean, his body, he receives work very well. But there's a lot to be done here. If your fingers do not stack well, you can go on with thumbs. I'm really big on like bring a thumb in, stack on that thumb and glide with that. So this is where the pressure is coming from, because you don't want to like blow your thumbs out. That's easy to do. So I generate the pressure here. My thumb is just hanging out. I'm not squeezing with it. I'm compressing and gliding from there. Now, can I take a glide and add a little bit of stretch? Sure. Like I said, you just turn it into work. You don't need to overthink it. Now I can play with ranges. I can see what feels good. If I get to a really, really tight spot, I might go to more static compression. So it just becomes one whole fluid thing. Eventually, that feels effective. Don't let me go too much, Evan, okay?
Yeah, you're good.
A little targeted work here, and then we're going to talk about friction. So we've got our, well, I need to do compressions also. Better to demonstrate on hamstrings, but if I use a calf, I can definitely bring a tool in. Probably going to use a forearm with Evan. I want to just allow my forearm to contour to that lateral calf. I want to make sure that his leg doesn't rotate on me or his hip doesn't rotate. And I'm just going to generate pressure straight into the table. When Evan feels like it's a comfortable maximum for him where he can relax into it, he's going to tell me edge. So my job is to not move. I'm going to watch Evan and say, okay, did he tighten his glutes? Did he tighten his shoulder? Is he still breathing? Just say, hey, doing great. Because sometimes people will they'll clench up. So cue him to relax, deep breaths. And then so as of right now, the tension I felt in the beginning is not where it is right now. I have not moved, but that tension has decreased under my contact. I'll check in with Evan. How are we doing? Thumbs up. And now I have space to move in deeper. So now that he's let go, we'll say, all right, Evan, we're going to find that next edge, okay? I'm going to lean into the work.
Edge.
Nice. So I'm able to get now into those deeper paramecial layers. I've got more pressure, but I'm not alarming his system. I want him to be able to let go. So he's not fighting me. He's totally relaxed. And I might do these compressions for, 4 or 5 minutes just in this spot and just continue to work through. So we get you on body mechanics, man. You might be here for a while. So make sure your body, the only thing I feel right now is my right glute and my right hamstring. I don't feel my back, I don't feel my shoulder, I feel my glute. I'm happy with that. I can work with that. Keep my wrist relaxed, stack my joints, nice and easy. How are we doing there? Good? We'll do one more here and then we'll move on, but yeah, I'm just gonna go straight in.
Edge.
Nice. Certainly not the most exciting thing to watch, but very effective. Frictions, that's the last one. So frictions, we like cross fiber, okay? Also, we've used fingertips, thumbs, knuckles, forearms. I like to go back to knuckles for cross fiber friction just to get a little bit of mobilization. And I'm working cross fiber, which means I'm going across the direction of the muscle to tease it off of the deeper structure. So I'm just going in, teasing that tissue off, hyper focusing on that lateral side. That's all we're doing with cross fiber friction, just mobilizing tissue. Okay. Honestly, if you guys weren't here, I would 100% be standing here. It's way easier on my body. I do not want to block you guys, so I'm standing here. But body mechanic wise, I'd be here. Working. Okay. I'm going to have to shift here for hamstrings. So if you're back here, if you might want to move just to see. And Evan, if you could scoot towards me just a little bit. But we're just introducing concepts. Okay. So, hamstrings are very powerful knee flexors. You good with the camera? You need to move it?
It's good.
You good? Okay. So if I bring the leg up, that shortens the space. I can now come in with a palm to pin that tissue and stretch it. Shorten it, pin it a bit more, stretch it. A palm feels decent here. Sometimes a palm doesn't feel like enough. So if someone's like, yeah, I don't really feel a stretch here, we can move to a forearm, we can move to a knee, or we can move to a foot. I'll put people on the floor and use my foot. So I'll demo all that, but let's just try to get a little bit there. For a knee, I could probably just do it from here, but I could have him scoot over and get on the table with it, but I could come in with my tibial shaft. I can pin that tissue up, and then I could bring the leg down. Okay, bring it up again. I'm gonna follow that to pin a little bit more. So I'm pushing through my right foot to drive my leg up more, to pin a little bit more. And then we're gonna come back down. And drop it to the table, and I can stretch here. So still stretching fascia. Again, like back of the knee is a big thing, right? Getting that knee to open up. So I've got hamstrings on top, calves below, just stretching that tissue. Okay, alternately, and Evan's a pretty durable guy, I could put him on the ground. So if you don't mind going to the floor for me, Senor. Okay, you want a pillow?
I'm fine.
You good? Okay. So I will use, sorry, I'm just gonna grab a pole right here. So we just use a dowel rod, just to give myself a little bit of stability. I'm gonna bring the contact of my foot in, okay, right above the knee. Please don't go over the back of the knee. We don't wanna go stepping on the back of the knee. We're gonna go above. I can use the table as support, and then I'm just going to have Evan bend his knee to 90 degrees. Once he's there, I'm gonna say pause there for just a second. I'm gonna pin that tissue up, and then he is gonna bring it back down. And you can see how early he gets a stretch, and he's just gotta work through that. Yep. And yeah, he stopped early, that's great. He doesn't wanna go beyond his comfort zone. Okay, is that feeling okay on your knee?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Yes, you always wanna make sure it's not hurting that patella. Nice, good. And here we come back up and do one more nice pin. So you see my foot goes up a little more. He comes back down. Putting in the work. And let that relax, good. And so these rods just give us a little bit of support. I can also do compressions from here. So I'll use a heel, I'll come into like lateral hamstrings, and we'll just do some edge work.
That's bothering my knee a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Listen to the ground.
Yeah, we'll move up just a little bit here.
Yeah, there you
Still knee there or
go.
better?
No, that's
Good?
good.
Okay.
Edge.
Yeah, at the end of the day, man, some people have really durable patellas. Some people get a lot of irritation being on their knees. So I always try to check in and be like, hey, give me some feedback. I mean, it's still like pressure into the ground. This is concrete. So, you know, if I need to move up, happy to do it. This is an easy way to compress. If I got a really like hefty client that can handle a lot, just lay him on the ground, man. Just sit here and do some compressions. Same idea, edge work, breathe and relax, contacting with my heel. This is like maybe 6% of what I can do. I mean, we got a lot of room to compress here. So when you get some release, how we feeling there, Evan?
Good.
I can very slowly generate some more pressure.
Edge.
His edges are light enough that you can see me like trying to balance myself. I'd be much better off on the table with an elbow because it's almost work to stay this light, right? So, you know, you can have some people where this is good, but this might be too much where you're having to manage it. So I'm going to move him back to a table, but do practice this. Also, if the heel feels like a lot, you can use the arch of the foot. It's a little bit easier to handle. Okay? If you don't mind, back on the table, please. Great. I'm just going to run through a little bit more here. So glides, if I want to do glides, it's the same idea, y'all. I can go lateral hamstring or medial. Okay, we're going to focus lateral because they're tighter. And again, you haven't been taught hamstrings. Just remember, they go from the knee, the tip fin, up to the ischial tuberosity. So they're heading here. If you end up out here, you're probably more in like glute territory, which a lot of people need. But just try to keep it hamstring. There.
Mm-hmm.
I always got to manage my pinky, man. I don't know why. When I started working, I'd lift my pinky up. And I did it for years, man. Is that what it is? I don't know what it is, man. My pinky started to hurt, and now I like been trying to like relax it back down. It just feels weird.
I'm a pinky holder too, like.
Yeah, it's just a thing, man. I think it's just how my hands built. Especially this right woman who just wants to like be somewhere. I don't know. Strange. So yeah, we're doing some glides. I got a free hand. I can come in and just be like, oh, let's have a little bit of stretch with that. Just get that fascia moving. Mobilize it around my contact. I feel like his lateral hamstring is stuck to his quad. Quads do wrap all the way to the back of the femur. So I feel like I need to get that mobilized. Don't want to go too much, but doing all right there?
Mm-hmm.
It's cool, man. Like I could feel like it feels like I'm not receiving the work, but it feels satisfactory. When you get like a good spot and you're working with it, it just feels good to you. You know what I mean? And you hope it feels good to them, but like it just feels good when you got like good contact, working on some stuff. Okay, just lift that leg up just a little bit for me, Evan. And back down. And back up. Back down. Back up. Back down. Good. I'm gonna do a little bit of pin to stretch this hip, and then we're gonna go ahead. It's not here. Going into that hamstring tendon. Right where the muscle meets the tendon. Just give me a little bit of pelvic tilts for me, so a little bit anterior posterior. Nice. Okay, let's have you on your back side. So when you recheck a leg, just be open. We don't know what's going on. You might not get anything out of it, right? If you don't, Still give them space to give you feedback. 'Cause sometimes people are like, oh man, that feels really good, right? Sometimes you get results. Tension is complex, y'all. Let's see what we got. Yeah, so some improvement. Probably about 15 more degrees before we get that knee bend, so probably right about here. So we're on our way. Now, there's a lot more to be done here. Some of that could be still trapped in the bottom of the foot. Didn't do much there. I know for me, that lateral calf, definitely like a point to return to, but definitely some improvement for sure. That's good. How are we feeling down there?
Much better.
Good. So that's what we're doing today, y'all. Just traveling through the posterior chain. If you feel lost, you're like, I watched you do that pin and stretch. I don't know.